This is School Prayer by Diane Ackerman. In the name of the daybreak, and the eyelids of morning, and the wayfaring moon, and the night when it departs, I swear I will not dishonor my soul with hatred, but offer myself humbly as a guardian of nature, as a healer of misery, as a messenger of wonder, as an architect of peace. In the name of the sun and its mirrors, and the day that embraces it, and the cloud veils drawn over it, and the uttermost night, and the male and the female, and the plants bursting with seed, and the crowning seasons of the firefly and the apple, I will honor all life, wherever and in whatever form it may dwell, on earth my home, and in the mansions of the stars. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about some of the poetic techniques that poets use to make their points. Some of these are actually rhetorical techniques that you would learn in any kind of speech making, prose as well as poetry, as well as fiction. You might have noticed some repetition, and not just repetition of a specific word, but of structure, as you can see in the first stanza with this structure of and the eyelids of morning, and the wayfaring moon, and the night when it departs. You can see the structure repeating. You see it again down here with as a. And the form depends a little bit on that repetition. Lots of and here as well. Notice that the use of the word and is something that points us to union, bringing together. And means in addition to and with others. We always start with the title. School prayer seems to reference two different things. Prayer, as well as a formal structure of an academic institution. And what if the prayer were for the start of the school day? Or what if this were a ritual way of learning and going about life? The structure comes a lot from prayer in format. In the name of. I swear I will not. In the name of, if you look at the three different stanzas and the phrases that begin them. And then turning to I will, after saying what I will not do. So let's start with that first stanza, really focus in and look at what structures are used there. What kind of promise is being made here? What kind of prayer is this? This invoking of a name that isn't quite named though, right? In the name of the daybreak. Well, that's not an actual name. It's not naming a deity. It's not naming any proper name. But daybreak refers to the beginning of day, and it refers to nature, and it refers to earth. By using the reference to eyelids, many of you noted in our discussions that we're talking about the earth having eyes and eyelids that open and close to begin the morning and bring night. And by saying that the earth has eyelids, we're personifying the earth here. The wayfaring moon is a specific way to describe the moon, and the idea that the night departs shows a sort of coming and going. We have a 4-line first stanza, and in the second stanza we are not actually finished with the first sentence, with the sentence in the first stanza. It's still going. There's only a comma there at the end, and we go on. The period doesn't happen until the end of the second stanza. So this is a very long sentence, and it is seeming to be building on ideas by the use of and 3 times in the first stanza, and as a or as Anne in the second stanza. Again, a unity, a bringing together. The word swear, though, and the use of I, gives it a heaviness, a sense of seriousness that can be conveyed with the notion of a religious kind of promise, because swearing is invoking some sort of higher power. It particularly has a connotation that is associated, at least in our culture, with a Judeo-Christian view. And the use of I, use of the first person. The word soul also seems to invoke a Judeo-Christian view, since that's where that word comes from, that particular tradition. I swear I will not dishonor my soul with hatred. And later saying toward the bottom, I swear I will honor all life. If you bring those two together and note what's in between them, there is a very specific kind of promise here. If the soul will not be dishonored with hatred, if I swear I will not dishonor my soul with hatred, but offer myself humbly as, and the list is very specific. What is a guardian of nature, as a healer of misery, as a messenger of wonder, as an architect of peace? What do each of those roles, those specific nouns here, have to do with each other? A guardian, a healer, a messenger, and an architect. If we're going to guard, we're going to protect. A guardian of nature, we're keeping safe what we already have. As a healer of misery, it gets a little bit possibly religious here as well. Guardian, healer, and messenger. How do you heal misery? How do you keep misery from destroying? As a messenger of wonder, think about what wonder is. That sense of awe, that sense of inability to comprehend something that is beyond individual or even human comprehension. And then as an architect of peace, this word architect's really specific because an architect builds, right? We later have reference to mansions. At the end, they're mansions of the stars, something that is built, a building itself. The period comes in at the end of the second stanza, and the sentence technically ends, and it begins again with "in the name of." And that phrasing, "in the name of," is invoking what normally would be some sort of proper name, or at least a reference to a specific higher power like a deity. It also is representative. If it's not seen in a religious sense, then "in the name of" something would be representing a large group rather than just one person, speaking for all of us in the sense. In the name of the sun and its mirrors. What are the sun's mirrors? Well, we know that literally the sun is mirrored by the moon, that the moon uses the sun's light to reflect it back. And the day that embraces it, the "it" here refers to the sun, and the cloud veils drawn over it, again, now we're looking at reference to the sun in the pronoun "it," and the uttermost night, and the male and the female, and the plants bursting with seed, and the crowning seasons of the firefly and the apple. There seems to be an inclusiveness here. There are several aspects of nature that are included, and it's followed with the beginning of a new stanza, comma, "I will honor all life." So life, and particularly all life on earth, is being referenced here and being held as something to be honored. There's the use of the long dash, and in between the two dashes is the phrase wherever and in whatever form it may dwell. On earth my home, and in the mansions of the stars. So my home is earth. The architect was mentioned earlier. The mansions of the stars is a reference to a very large building, a very large house. But by extending it beyond earth, this person, the speaker, is referencing the larger universe, the world outside of our own planet. I will honor all life, wherever and in whatever form it may dwell. Very wide, open view there. On earth, my home. The use of I and my to take possession of is important here. And in the mansions of the stars. If the stars are mansions, or if the stars live in mansions. So why school prayer? How is it being used? What is the tone here? What is the theme of this poem? How do these examples of poetic technique help to support a specific tone and theme? Certainly there are lots of examples to reference. What's a good adjective to name the tone in this poem? If this is a promise being made, maybe even a vow in this particular prayer, a solemn promise. And the offering there, I offer myself humbly as all of these things, in all of these ways, and for all aspects of nature. A good adjective might be, if you think about it a little bit, what describes the attitude towards the subject. If it's the poet's or speaker's attitude towards the subject of a poem, if that's a definition of tone, what is this speaker's attitude? There's certainly a seriousness in the promise. There's a sort of solemn kind of tone, wanting to preserve what is here on earth. It's very inclusive. And it seems to be a poem that has something to do with unity and the importance of making this promise in order to keep all life safe and to revere it as valuable here on earth and even beyond our home earth. So if you're praying in the name of something, and the name of that thing is the daybreak and the morning, the moon, the night, the earth itself and everything on it, and it's being sort of worshipped in a way, and preservation of those things, as well as sort of a reverence for all of those things, is a big idea in the poem. What else could you add to the tone besides solemn, a solemn promise? It's particularly serious, and it seems to be very passionate and unconditional and genuine and true. If you were to repeat this prayer each day, it would be a true promise. Talk to you next time we read a poem.